Raiders!
What do you know? Here I am. You guys thought I wasn't going to show up, huh? Sorry about that. Little technical difficulty with we were playing around in the studio a minute ago, and I forgot to change one of the settings on the old listening device in the vertical live. So, but we got it fixed, and we are here. Raider Nation, let's get one thing straight right now. This ain't hype anymore. This ain't about potential. This is actually about pride and poise. Pride is what you show when everything is on the line. Poise is what you carry when the moment gets bigger than you. And right now, that's the question hanging over this team. Because we've heard the talk, we've seen the flashes, but flashes don't win in this league. Consistency does. You don't build respect in the NFL off of almost, right? You don't scare anybody with, well, we'll get there. You either show up or you get exposed. And here's the truth, Raider Nation might not want to hear it. We're at that point where excuses don't hit the same anymore. Talent, it's there. Coaching, we'll find out. Identity, that's on a trial basis. Because real teams with pride and poise, they don't fold when things get tight. They don't disappear in big moments. They respond, they execute, they finish. So today, we're not sugarcoating anything. We're calling it exactly how we see it. Are the Raiders building something real? Or are we watching the same story play out again? Because sooner or later, every team shows you exactly who they are. And Raider Nation, we're about to find out who we really are. So sit down, buckle up. If you're on your lunch break, come join us, and let's do this, guys.
They tried to measure us by time, by place, by what already passed. But the Raiders were never history. They were built for what comes next. A man once said, the greatness of the Raiders is in its future. The shield was forged in commitment to excellence. No shortcuts, no explanations, only standards. Silver. Black. Forever. Just win, baby.
That's it. But let's start off with a little pride and poise before we get to commitment to excellence, which eventually will lead us to just win, baby. I'm your host, Raiders First Down, JD, Jason, whatever you want to call me. I'll be more than happy to answer to you. I don't take it personal. You can call me Bob. You can call me Paul. You can call me, whatever. But in the meantime, let's have a good conversation. Let's chop it up a little bit. Let's see what we can do. Maybe something might come about this. Okay? A lot of content creators out there. You guys watch them all. I know. I do. I watch a lot of them. And sometimes you find little nuggets here and there when you watch other people. But 2 weeks from yesterday, so technically 13 days, we start the draft. But I really think the most important part of the draft is on Friday when we hit the second and third round. That is going to be the meat of what's going to make us that much better. So before we get started, here's a topic we're going to start rolling with. Are we ready for the draft? And how do you think Spytek's draft board looks? But before we go any farther than that, let's get into the chat. Start getting our shout-outs. Donuts Duncan's in the house, 10:30 this morning. Hopefully you're back at lunch and watching, my partner. Thanks for coming in. Robert Pena, as always, salute. Once again, man, love your car. Love your car. I was in here for just a minute. A little technical difficulty. Sorry about that, guys, but we'll fix it. We got it fixed. Bueno. I'm not bueno. Raider Nation for life. Oh, great. JD's late. Yep. Hey, just don't tell Jeff. Shh. I don't want to get fined. I get fined when I do that stuff. Alex is in the house. Salute to the nation, my friend. Thanks for coming in. Always got great takes. And the one, the only, Captain Rafuko. And you know what's up, nation. Raf is in the building. And you only know that there's one nation. That's the motherfucking Raider Nation, brother. Peace, salute to you. We love you, Captain. Thanks for coming in, my friend. So let's get it. Let's get after it, man. Are we ready for the draft? How do you think Spytek's draft board looks? What do you think is on that draft board? What options do you see? What do you think his clusters are going to look like when he starts pulling in? Are you seeing something in particular, little tea leaves that are being dropped down on the ground that we're seeing in these interviews with Kubiak and Spytek and some of the other NFL quote unquote insiders? Nope, not Diana Rossini. We don't have one of those, so that's out. Not going to trust her. All right. But what nuggets are you seeing? What are you guys seeing? What do you think? Because a lot of GMs, and Spytek's probably one of them, that probably has that draft board under lock and key, whereas only him and two other people know exactly what it looks like. Right? So what do you think it looks like? Say it in the chat, man. Let me know. Do you think the second round is going to be position specific? Are we targeting a specific person? You tell me. So, is it somebody that we're specifically targeting at that position? Because I can tell you there's been some interviews and you have your all 30 visits and things like that. But, some of that smokescreen, guys, some of it's smokescreen. For all intents and purpose, all this hug and rub with Fernando, that could be a smokescreen too. Because I could tell you this, if I wanted to trade back, if I was in that position where trade back is probably a better suit for us as a general manager, I'd be all in. Oh, this is the greatest car. It's got leather seats. It's got a nice paint job. It's got all this horsepower under the hood. But I don't want to sell it. I don't. And then the guy comes along and goes, okay, what's the asking price for it? It's not for sale. Okay. What if I give you $115,000 for that car? Okay. The car's worth $60,000. And I'm going off of personal experience with my vehicle, my car, my 71 Chevelle that I built, that is probably worth about $65,000, $70,000. And I had a guy literally offer me $75,000 for it. And I'm like, I don't want to sell it. It means too much to me. Okay. He goes, what about $80,000? Now you're starting to go, okay, well, the car is really important, but you start throwing more money at it. It's like, I could always build another one for that, still have extra left over. But that's just a personal story. I'm just trying to correlate that with what that first pick is. And it's what's the value of that first pick? What is the value? What does it mean to us? And what does it mean to another team? Does it mean that much to us? So 805, thanks for joining, brother. Salute to you, man. As always, one of the guys I look up to when it comes to content creating, even though you're kind of like a brother, but sometimes I had to slap my brother too, but I don't think I'd ever slap you. So you're too cool of a dude. So I just, are we ready for the draft? How do you think Spytek's draft board looks? Do you think Spytek right now has a solid draft board? Because I can tell you this, the back half of that first round is going to be weird. It is. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of movement after pick 18, even pick 15. Let's say pick 15. Because I've done a couple mock drafts, and I've done some mock drafts where I didn't pick anybody. I just let the computer blow through it. And I've seen a lot of right around pick 15 is where you start to see a lot of the movement where there's moving up, moving back, things like that. Are we a player? Are we a player to move back up into the first round? You tell me, chat. What do you think? Give it your best. Give it your best. Let's see here. We're gonna move on because I want to get this thing rolling. It's a Friday. I hope you guys are having a good lunch or whatever, sitting back, watching some ugly dude on YouTube talk about Raider football. One of my greatest passions. I think sometimes my wife has wanted me to go to therapy because of it. It's addicting, but it's also something that was ingrained in me when I was young. So you knew what you were marrying. This is what you get. I told you. So let's segment 1. Somebody's lying to us. Somebody is lying to us. Most definitely. Are the Raiders closer than they are telling us? Or are they further away? Who do you trust more right now? The coaches? The players? What you see on the field from last year compared to what we potentially could see this year? In the chat, type real or fake. Type real if you trust the direction the Raiders are going. Or type fake, and I'll spell it F-A-K-E if you don't trust the way the Raiders are going. So let's see what we got going on. So far we got a lot of back and forth chat and not a whole lot of people throwing some suggestions at me. Is it me? I don't think it's me. In fact, I know it's. Or is it real or is it fake? So far, everything that we're hearing as it pertains to the draft. Okay, we already know we've had a really good free agency. I think one of the best free agencies. Very smart, deliberate, executed as better than what I thought they were going to do. Trust me. There were some pickups in the free agency that just blew me away. Kwity Paye, Kobe Dean, Walker. Those, I was like, when we got to Kobe Dean, I was like, huh? Right on. Another Georgia Bulldog. But do you think it's real when we go into the draft? You think everything that we're hearing is real? Who do you think we should take at the number 36 position? Is there somebody specific? I myself don't have a specific. I'm looking at it as there's 3 guys that I kind of see falling in that particular area that I would like to see. Okay. McDonald from Ohio State, I don't think he's going to fall to us at 36. In fact, I have a feeling if we stay at 36, hoping he comes to us, that somebody might jump us to get him somewhere around 33, 34. And that's another faux pas you can't let happen in the draft. You gotta be if there's somebody you want, you gotta be ready to pull the trigger and get up there and get that guy. So is McDonald the guy? What about Brandon Cece from the cornerback from South Carolina? Watched him play a couple times. I really, really liked how he played. Could be a little handsy, which, when he gets into the NFL, that's going to turn into penalties, so he's going to have to get off of that a little bit. What about Pons from Indiana? Will we look goofy if we took our first 2 picks were from Indiana? That kind of look a little weird, don't you think? Kind of like the guy in your fantasy draft I remember years ago in a fantasy draft being in a fantasy football league with a guy that's a Minnesota Vikings fan. And it seemed like everybody he picked was Minnesota Vikings because that's all he knew. He didn't know anybody else. He's just like, I'm going to get me a Viking player. So before you know it, he's got nothing but Vikings on his fantasy football team. And we were all like, good luck with that. But what about D'Angelo Ponce at number 36? He's risen up the boards quite a bit since we started this. I know when we rolled out of January, he was probably about a third, second, late second, early third round pick. But as time has gone on and people have got to see his tape a little bit more and see his physicality, even though he's 5'9", 5'10", fairly short for a cornerback, outside cornerback, he doesn't play like it. He makes up for what he lacks in height. He makes up with athleticism and determination, and how he's just always physical, plays the game physical, plays it the way it's supposed to be. Not afraid to get in and tackle. Not if he gets beat on a route, he stays with it. He doesn't give up. He doesn't quit. So that's one of those things that, are they lying to us about who they really want? Excuse me. Or do you think maybe they'll do like they did last year and trade back 2 or 3 times in the second round, which I think on face value, when it first happened, when the first trade went in, I was like, cool. We only went back one spot. We got us a 3rd round pick. That made up for the 3rd round pick that we gave up to get. I believe it was Geno we gave up a 3rd round pick for, correct? If I may be wrong, don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure it was the Geno. We gave up a 3rd round to get Geno from Seattle. And so by moving back one, we were able to get back into the 3rd round, have a little play in the 3rd round. And then we moved again and got some more draft capital. So we went from 36 to 58. That's a huge jump. That's too much, especially in the first 3 rounds. If you want to move back like that in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round, by all means, go ahead, because now you're going for quantity, not quality. At that point, you're trying to get as much as you can, and if you draw enough cards, maybe you might get the right card that wins you the hand type attitude. But in the long run, I myself, up 5, back 5. That's your limit. And you stay. Because if you really, really, truly think about it, and if you guys have ever, and I know a lot of you guys in chat world out there have done multiple drafts, fantasy drafts, that when you move back 10, 12, 15 spot, it just throws your whole perspective of who you're going to draft out of the way. You're like, I can move back 10 picks and still get this guy. So you move back 10 picks. Well, that guy went 8 picks later, so you kind of whiff on those opportunities. And I'm not big on that. I'm not big on that. I like to see GMs stay true to their board, and moving back 5 or up 5 doesn't really change your board that much. You can still keep your core clusters of where your players are going to fall. And whatever that pick comes up, maybe 1 or 2 of the guys that you were targeting at that position at that point are still on the board. So it keeps you in the game of who you want, where you want, how you want. Who are you guys? I mean, are you guys BPA or are you guys positional need? I myself is if you can do both, that's a win-win. And if anybody has looked at our roster, even today as it's constructed, our roster today still has tons of holes in it. Okay. And I don't think trading a number 1 pick to go back and get a whole bunch of other picks is actually going to solve that problem today. It might look like it, but it's not. So when you start to talk about building through the draft, okay, building through the draft actually means when you draft, you hit. Okay, because 1 good pick is better, and draft and staying true and drafting that 1 pick could mean more to your franchise than moving back and guessing, because you're going to be guessing at that point of who you're going to draft. Now, I'm sure scenarios have been played out, okay? Because as we know, it's not our draft board; it's SpyTech's draft board, and so he's going to know what his scenarios are, and I'm sure they're going to do their mock drafts, that week before, where they're going to do test runs, where they'll have people pretend to be other GMs, making phone calls and giving scenarios and whatnot, and they're going to probably do homework on, talking to some agents and things like that, and say, hey, your client, might be somewhere here or there. What do you think? We're kind of considering drafting him. And that guy goes, well, the Browns are actually thinking of going up to number 3 and getting my client. So, and who lies the most? Agents. They're wannabe lawyers. Lawyers are the best liars. Agents are the second best liars, and then cops are the third. I'm not the greatest liar in the world, but I can play with the best of them. Rolling in here nice and hot is next effect. One of my guys, I see something realistically. Trade back to when they can get Lee Hunter in the second and stockpile. So you're saying trade back from number 1, get a couple. If I trade that number 1 pick, I want somebody that has 2 picks in the first round this year, and preferably one of them in the top 10. Because I don't want to leave that number 1. I don't want to go too far back from that number 1 spot. So, all right. So he answered the question here. No, 36. Okay. So trade back. So you're saying Lee Hunter might be there. I think Raider Jeff the other day did one the other day where he was still there at 40-41 trading back. That it's a gamble. I can tell you that if we trade back, let's say he's there at 36 and we want him, but we want to trade back, get more capital, and still get him. You could have egg on the face if you do that, because he might go 37. It's just like last year. We went back to 58. I wanted Tate Ratledge. I was like, okay, they traded back. Now get Tate Ratledge. Nope. Now we trade back to 58. Well, guess who went number 57? Tate Ratledge. Isn't that a Raider move if I ever seen one? Seems like we do that all the time. And so and we start to get into that world of, we can change the players, but we don't change the game. We're still doing Raider stuff, even though we've got different people in the building. But also, too, I think last year's draft wasn't 100% SpyTech. Even though the blame and the credit is going to go 100% on him, I still think some of that has to do with the coach that was there. Overhyped versus under fire. Who is the most protected player on this roster? Who deserves more criticism but isn't getting it? Drop one name, no explanations, just the name. Let's talk about it. What do you think? And then there's Donis Duncan coming in. Hello, nation. Happy Mother Loving effing Friday. Yeah, God bless, man. It's Friday. Weekend's here, right? But when you're blessed like me, every day's a weekend. I mean, I don't want to say too much about it, but I was fortunate in my career to be able to retire at a young age. So now I babysit, take care of my mom and cats, and just basically I'm a house husband now. Next effect for being injury prone. Well, you can use injury prone. I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Use injury prone if you want, but if you can, how about overall performance and just include the injury part? I myself think overhyped would be, following your criteria, would be JPJ. We've seen a lot of good things out of him, yes, but we haven't seen the full scale because of why his proneness to injury. So if we can knock that injury bug out of that young man and let him cook, who knows? We might have the second coming of Steve Wisniewski at left guard. Yes, he's a left guard. He would perfect at left guard. Does pretty good at right guard. Did really well at center, but he's not his. Believe it or not, his. If you go back and you watch him, he does so much better at left guard, especially next to Colton Miller. He's got really good performances next to Colton Miller in those. Let's see. Donis Duncan, I think McDonald and Miller are overhyped. I don't think they're that much better than other DTs. Actually, I'm going to push back on that. McDonald was a huge reason why Styles and Reese had success. If you watch the tape, he engulfs a double team dang near every play, pass or run. He's taking on two bodies, and he's not getting pushed back. He's either staying at the zero or he's getting positive upfield. Doesn't have a whole lot of sacks, doesn't have a whole lot of pressures or things like that, but just his play in and of it. He does the dirty work to the best of his ability, and he's good at it. And those are the kind of guys that they're like the unsung heroes. And I would say not overhyped, undervalued as to his performance. And that's what I've seen with McDonald. Miller plays that way too. But Miller, here's the thing with Miller. I think Miller has a little bit more lateral quickness. And so he's able to move. He moves much better from the zero or the A gap. He'll get from the A gap to the C gap rather quick. Which is nice because if it's a counter or an off tackle run, he's still formidable in the tackle part of it, making it as being a part of the tackle, either getting hit on a hit, making contact with the back, or actually getting his arms on the back and getting them on the ground, which is huge. And the other, we'll talk about it more later as we go on, but sometimes those are more important than the glitz and the glamour of some guy that can just get up, who's just, shakes a block, gets upfield. I mean, sometimes, especially when you run a 3-4, and Coach 805 can attest to this as well. When you run a 3-4, that zero technique is huge, because if he can keep that center and those two guards occupied, oh my God, those linebackers can do some damage. And especially if you got fast ones that can hit, like Nakobe Dean and Quay Walker, it could be huge. And one of the things that one of the examples that I like to use is go back to 2001 with our Oakland Raiders, and we went out and we got, I believe it was Sam Adams. It could have been Ted Washington. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember the comment from the middle linebackers in the press release that week were like that. It was like the Holy Mother. They were like, now we can stay clean playing downhill with that big body, that 6'2", 340-pound dancing bear, that can just eat up blocks. And it's huge. And you go back in the history of the Raiders, Otis Sistrunk was good at that, the 84 team, Townsend was able to, but he didn't really move the double team. He could stymie it per se in the run game. I think Bill Patel was a little bit better at it, but they ran on paper we were a 3-4, but there was a lot of 4-man set, and we just had we would actually switch to a 3-4 whenever on passing downs to get Ted Hendricks more involved, because Ted Hendricks was on a pitch count that year. Mostly 15 play. He's a 15, maybe 20 plays a game type player at that time. So it was important that we were versatile. Donuts Duncan coming in. I can agree with JPJ being overhyped, but I also think a lot more fans, including myself, are coming to the realization that he can't stay on the field. And I think that's why where the overhype comes from is we're so enamored with what he can do that he gets overhyped. But two, and go back to some of the tape last year, there were some games last year he got beat. And we're not talking like, oh, missed a step or I was just out of position. We're talking man on man, helmet to helmet, shoulder pad to shoulder pad. He got owned. Now, having Chris Jones, going up against you, that he has a tendency to take the manhood away from a lot of people. So sometimes you got to give credit to the defensive player as well. Even the best of the best have losing reps or bad games. But there was a few. It wasn't just one game. JPJ had a few games last year where he really struggled to maintain his blocks, sustain his blocks, carry out the block, move the player. And I saw a lot of heel clicking. Anybody out there know what heel clicking is? If you're heel clicking as an offensive lineman, that's bad. That's bad. And your base too, shoulders up, square. Your trunk. Basically, your trunk is your driving force. You could be the greatest bench presser in the world, but if you ain't got leg strength, you're not going to be that good on the offensive line. You'll be good at holding. There's no doubt about that. When you go to hold somebody, you definitely will be good at that. Michael Guerrero coming in. Salute to you, my brother. Hey, let me know if you need any help work on your campaign for this year. I know being a congressman is going to suit you well. We're proud of you. So get to Washington and make us proud, Raider Nation. So salute to Michael Guerrero. This episode is brought to you by Smart Water. Smart Water, if you want to be smart, drink Smart Water. This is the alkaline, which is very good for your kidneys. I have some issues with my kidneys. So far, it ain't been too bad. Had an episode a couple of weeks. It was not fun. But taking some advice from my brother-in-law who survived kidney cancer. He's just drink alkaline water. So we're drinking alkaline water. Jack coming in. What's up, brother? Thanks for coming in. Prison shoes for Deuce Gruden. Everybody wants to get after Deuce Gruden. I think the mere fact that he's Gruden's son and he's still part of this franchise and we haven't moved on from him, that says a lot about it. But at the same time, the kid is actually pretty good at what he does, So, but you think we see JPJ in a Guardian cap soon? I would not be shocked if that isn't going to be a must for him going forward. But I don't think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was when he got taken out last year for a long period of time. I thought it was his ankle, not his head. He did have a concussion last year. I do know that there was a time he had a concussion last year, and then the year before he got a freaking concussion at OTAs. How the hell do you get a concussion at OTAs? Riddle me that one back, man. It's like so. We got some talk around going on. Michael G for president. It's not nitpicking, but I'm gonna let his comment roll up there. If you guys can all take a gander at his comment, and we'll see if we agree with him. Because 95% of the time, I agree with him. I think Max could be overhyped. I want him to produce top 3 at his position. I think we look at him the way realistically, probably top 5 or 6. He needs to be that game changer early and more often. Yes, but also too, not so much what he does in the first and second quarter, but when we need that play with 8 minutes to go to get the ball back in the fourth quarter to get back in the game, where is he? Where is he? You know, because a lot of times I'm shouting, "Hey Max, this is your time. This is your Mamba moment. Kick out your Mamba moment. Here we go." And it's like, nowhere. But Adam Butler was busting his ass to get up the middle and affect the quarterback. Makes you wonder. I know Coach Gravy the other day when we had him on our Saturday night show, he hit this point true to the blood, man. And in all honesty, Max Crosby is paid to sack the quarterback. His salary is 15 to 20 sacks per year. Full stop. Clip that. Send it to the Rush podcast. I don't care. That's what he's paid to do, is to sack the quarterback. Well, he's got a lot of tackles for loss. That's great. And realistically, tackles for loss are just as good as a quarterback sack. But usually your tackles for loss should be on the defensive tackle. So if he's getting a lot of tackles for loss, what's that say about the other three guys on the defensive line? Does that make sense? So that riddle me that. So it sounds like the other three guys should probably be stealing. If my outside edge rusher is leading a team in tackles for loss as a defensive tackle, something is wrong. That's got to be fixed. And so when we go into this draft this year, defensive tackle is going to be addressed. Now, I like McDonald. I really do. I like Miller as well. But I also really like Chris McClellan out of Missouri. And I think if we can get him at 67, if we don't get a defensive tackle at 36, at 67, pull the trigger on him. Pull the trigger on him. Because there's one guy that's going to be in the draft that would love to play next to him, and that's Zion Young. Because Zion Young played with them at Missouri. Those two guys, and I'm sure 805, you saw the film. And I even told, we were talking earlier, back when the game actually, that night after the game, or that week when the game happened, I had sent you a message. I can't remember if it was in the chat or if it was on Instagram, because I have a tendency to bug the piss out of you on both platforms. But I said, "Oh my God, that Missouri front seven is something nasty." And your response was, "Oh yeah." And they were getting after Alabama, and they should have won the game. They should have beat Alabama, but they had, their quarterback play was horrible. And they have one of the, I think they have the best running back going into next year on their team. Ahmed Harding. Write that name down. That kid is something special. You want to talk about somebody that's going to open eyes? That kid is something special. Hard to tackle, super fast. And he's just well built, disciplined in hitting the hole. Just everything that you can imagine of a running back, that's him. So go back, watch some Missouri. I know Severe gave me a bunch of crap, said, "You must be from Missouri." No, it just so happened I watched a couple of their games last year. I was just so impressed with their defensive front seven. And, Jeremiah Trotter at linebacker, Young, McClellan up front. They were just, really, in all honesty, I thought they were better than Miami's front in a roundabout way. It just seemed like they were, but you how you guys know how it goes. If you don't have a good quarterback to help you put points up on the board, that defensive line, there's only so much the defensive line can do before they come off the field and tell the coach, "Hey, we're not responsible for scoring touchdowns. You need to tell those guys that are supposed to be scoring touchdowns, start scoring touchdowns, or we ain't going to win this game." Let's see. Bueno, 805, yeah, and who knows how he will fit in this new defensive scheme. Let's let's see here. 805. A lot of his tackles for loss and sacks came late in games when it's already over and the offense is predictable. I know he needs help on the other end, but just want to see more consistency. Yeah, but also too, those were some of those games were later in the season too. Early in the season, he was showing up fairly early. Like the Chicago game, it was by the third play of the game, he was the trendsetter in that game. It just nobody matched what he was doing early on in that game, and then as the game went on, he just they figured out how to counter him and how he was playing. He still was very productive that game. Overall, I mean, go back and watch the game. It's like 98 is constantly everywhere. You know, I thought I even saw him on a commercial one time. I thought, good Lord, this guy's all over the screen. Ralph, I think a solid edge rusher opposite him will help, and a better secondary to give him that half a second longer to get to the QB. Max needs some help, but definitely want to see more out of him. I'm going to also add to that as well. 805 is another thing with Max Crosby is his finish once he gets there. Because even some of his sacks, if you see, are like you see him tie up. Mostly he's tying up the quarterback instead of making that inertia, getting that force going into the body of the quarterback and wrapping and taking him to the ground. There's a lot of times it's almost like he's standing up to and there's been a few times over the years that when we're playing Kansas City that he gets to Mahomes and it's the official blowing the whistle that gives him the sack, and it's not really the actual force, the hit, the wrap. He did everything right. He won his double move. He beat that defensive tackle. He got through the double team, and he gets home, and he just doesn't. The finish is the part that sets the tone. Perfect example was the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles against Kansas City. They hit him. That makes a difference. That makes a difference. When his eyes are bugging behind that face mask, you're going to win. So you got to get to that point, So, and if you're just rapping and softly taking the quarterback to the ground, that's not going to affect him. That's not going to set that example with him. You got to hit him. You got to make those sacks count. So I know I said it yesterday, but I really like Luan from Iowa. He'd be a great 5-tech guy for us. I think 5-tech. I don't think we're going to be really pushing the issue on that, especially when we still have one more year with Tyree Wilson, who that's where he's going to kick in. You're probably going to see Snowden play that role a little bit more. Butler is going to predominantly but he'll probably be the same side as Max. They seem to work really well together. They got a nice harmonious relationship when they play. They work well with each other on the same side. I could see Hemingway playing a lot of 5 technique as well, but he also will kick into the zero. He'll kick in over center. He can't. I don't think he can do it down in and down out because that's a lot of energy for him. But 10 to 15 snaps a game at the zero technique probably wouldn't hurt him, especially on passing downs per se. Max also over pursues the depth of the QB. Exactly. And what's funny is if you watch Kansas, specifically Kansas City, because they got the blueprint of it, is they actually will allow him to have the edge a couple times. Whereas the center and the tackle and the quarterback are already in sync on what the depth is going to be for the pocket. And they'll allow him to have the edge. And they'll carry him out. And then Mahomes already knows because he's seeing it, is he's got his eyes downfield, but his peripheral is so good that he could see Max at the corner of his eye, right, as he's looking downfield. And then he knows that my tackle is going to invite him upfield because Max wants to go 110%, right? And he's flying, and he's got, I mean, it looks like he's got a clear shot at Patrick Mahomes. Then all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes takes 2 steps forward, and that tackle is already there, washing him out. And now what's Patrick Mahomes doing? He's rolling lateral to this. He's rolling lateral to the. He's going parallel with the line of scrimmage, outside, ball in his hand. Right, his arm is in a position where he can either throw or run at the same time. Right, so he's got kind of low ready, and he's running. So it's now the guys, the linebackers and the cornerbacks and the safeties have to go, do I stay with my guy or do I come up and tackle him? Right? So, and you'll see it like in the first quarter. You'll see it where he'll run. Right? It's almost like a design run that they do to set you up. And then in the second quarter, usually in the third quarter, they run that same play. And now as he's running, he's not running as fast. Now those cornerbacks are like, well, he's going to run, so I'm going to run up to him. Well, he's still behind the line of scrimmage. And now he just dumps it over your head. And it's the exact same play. They'll run it in the first half, and then they'll run it again in the second half. But in the second half, the intent is to throw the ball over your head. So that's why whenever you play Patrick Mahomes and he scrambles or gets outside the pocket, you got to stay on your man until he crosses the line. If you give up 5, 6, 7 yards with Mahomes as he's running, that's fine. Let him have it. But the last thing you want him to do is dump it over your head and have that ball go screaming 60 yards downfield. That's no bueno, as the refrigerator would say. Max definitely has good games. He was a beast against Chicago. Just want to see more of it with his status. Absolutely, you're getting paid to do it. It's got to be a week in, week out thing. Not sure how much the injuries the last couple of years played a role. I'm not 100% on that either, but you know and I know that those knees have a tendency to wear down, and injury after injury, they have a tendency to take a toll. I know some people have reclaimed their careers and gotten over that injury hump, and some people don't. I have faith in Max because his work ethic and whatnot. But truth be told, this year is going to tell us a lot. If we keep Max, if he's still on the roster when we kick off in September, this year is going to tell us a lot of what he's going to be for us for years to come. It really is, because this is truth be told, this is going to be make it or break it for him. Now, having said that, rumors out there, grumblings, tea leaves being dropped. I don't know how true it is, but there might still be a draft day trade for him, because today that knee is way healthier today than it was when Baltimore pissed down their legs and sent him back. So we'll see. Maybe some medical stuff are done and shared with other teams that maybe potentially might want to move up and trade for him in the draft. I myself, at this point, would be like, we're just going to keep him. We're not even, you guys want to play these games. If other teams want to play games and think, because let's face it, the NFL is used to getting over on the Raiders, right? Or sometimes we get over on ourselves in the past with the type of moves that we make. Well, that stuff's got to stop. And I think with what happened with Baltimore really opened up a lot of eyes of, you know what, sometimes we just got to play, we got to be ourselves. Play it right. Ardell's in the building. What's up, Ardell? Thanks for coming in. Hits boy, thanks for coming in, brother. We appreciate it. Yeah, some people don't. Um, some people don't really like to talk about Max too much. I myself, I don't have a problem with it. Um, he's been a great Raider. Don't get me wrong, and he'll always be a Raider. You know, he's given us 7 years of 8 years of hard work, dedication, and really represents the Shield as passionately as anybody has ever had has. You know, so in each generational team that we have has to have somebody because we don't have many legends left. You know, and we haven't created many legends in the last 20 years. You know, besides Charles Woodson, can you think of anybody else that is legendary on our franchise that we can carry on for the rest of our lives and appreciate? Because that's what we do as Raider fans, right? We really embrace our legends, our alumni. And the past 20 years, there hasn't been. Max is the closest. Derek Carr for some people. I mean, no, I'm being nice because my wife liked him. And I like Derek Carr too. Don't get me wrong, really nice guy. Met him in person. Got to talk to him for about 10 minutes. Really nice guy, and he did a good job for us. Really, in all honesty, he did a good job. He gave us 9 years of quarterback play that we really you didn't have to be too upset, but yet at the same time weren't too happy with. So it was medium. It was mediocre at best. Statistically, really good, but as far as wins and losses results, not so much. Uh, the Ravens are a classless organization. Yeah, having I used to really tout the Ravens as being one of the organizations that had probably the best um, front offices after this debacle. No, and it's not just because if it was the Cleveland Browns made the same trade with the Ravens, which I don't think they would because they're in the same division. But let's just say, let's pick another team that's not in their division. Let's say, Houston's Will Anderson to the Baltimore, and then all of a sudden they get there and they don't like his medical. All of a sudden they don't like it. They knew about his medical, but all of a sudden they don't like him because there's another guy we can get that's just as good but cheaper. And Trey Henderson isn't as good as Max Crosby. Gets a lot of sacks, gets paid for it. By all means, man, he knows how to make his money, but he doesn't know how to help his team win. I mean, let's face it. We've seen Trey Henderson get blocked by slot receivers, but he does get to the quarterback. I do have to give him credit for that. I mean, you end the season with 17 sacks in your back pocket on a contract year. Somebody's going to pay you. Trade his ass. Hopefully, you're referring to Max Crosby. Because if you're referring to me, trust me, I will get this team 3 first-round picks if you trade me. Jeff coming in hot. Yeah, well, Haymakers raining down from Rhode Island. And then there's Jeff. And I apologize for reading all those, but they're all linked together. So, but having said that, I'm not opposed. If we go into the draft and we trade Max Crosby, I'm not upset about that either. I wasn't upset about him being traded to Baltimore. In fact, I was kind of excited, especially when I saw we got the 14th pick in the draft. And I was like, oh yeah, 14th this year, and then we get their first next year. Yeah, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking with peanut oil for sure. But what say you guys, man? Let's do this. Got a little something for you. Now, where do you see this team this year? Type 1, if it's a huge upswing. 2, better, but not quite sure yet. 3, are we still the same? or a 4, you just want to wait and see. Wait till the season starts. So in the chat, you have your numerical correspondence on this poll. Just type it in the chat. Give it a 1 if it's a huge upswing. 2 if it's better but not quite there yet. 3 if you think we're still the same. Or 4, I will just have to wait to see. And we will go from there. So we're starting off with numerical 6-win floor, 9-win ceiling. So we did a lot of that last year, right? And so what I want to do is I want to coach all my fellow Raider Nation people. I want you guys to get off the numerical part of it. Okay. Let's not talk 6-win, 9-win, 10-win. I'm sure Bueno will come in here and say we're going to win 27 games next year. But let's not do that. Let's focus more on what we see as a team. Because even I'm not a moral victory kind of guy, but based on what we've had the last 3-4 years, the moral victories give us something to at least be proud of. Thinking, okay, we're going in the right direction, because that's what we want, right? This year is going to be, which direction are we going in, right? Where do you see this team this year, right? Huge upswing. Type it in the chat. That's all you got to do. Just hit a number, hit send, and we'll go from there. You know, and that'll kind of give us an idea what everybody's thinking. So far, we're at 50-50 for 2 and 4, but I think we only got 2 votes. So hit those buttons, hit that number, man. I mean, there's 12, 13 people in here watching right now. We should have at least 10 votes in, you know. So elections have consequences, folks. We might be stuck with better, but not quite the same yet. So if you have an opinion, you get it in there. Somebody's not seeing the poll. Jeff, if you can help me out with that, if you're watching, if you can see the poll. I am running vertical and horizontal. It might be a vertical thing. Let me know. So Jeff, if you can help me out. This is new, by the way. So normal polls are ran on the YouTube side. This one is actually coming off the StreamYard side. It's something new that they added to StreamYard, which I think if 805, if you're paying attention, if you need any help with, if you're using StreamYard, it's a widget in your assets. With your assets, there's a widget, and you can create your poll on the StreamYard side. And so far, it looks like it's collecting data. So I'm at 50-50. At first, I didn't think it was a data collector, but it is a data collector. So I don't know if you have to click on the poll, because I'm seeing it on the StreamYard side, not the YouTube side. So if you guys that are in there that want to be my friend and want to help me out, more than appreciate it, because what we're doing, we're test running this right now. And if this will help us, then I can help 805, Severe, and all those other guys that use StreamYard, and Jeff as well, because I'm sure we're going to use this on our Saturday night show. With our call-in show, Raider Nation Voices, 7 p.m. every Saturday night with your host, Raider Jeff, 41 Raider Jeff, and myself. And but I'm also keeping a tab on it in the chat, and I don't know if it excludes you if you already voted, because I know Duncan, I think you're on your second one here. But let me see here. So yeah, Ardell was 2 and you were 4. Ardell's 2 and you are 4 again. So I'm not even seeing the poll one. It's on screen in both vertical and portrait. Okay. And Jeff, if you want to pop in with me on the studio, it's okay, because this is something that I wanted to do to help us out in the long run, because it's our company and we want our company to grow. But so far, I'm liking what I see, brother. I'm liking what I see on this side. But if you want to jump in and see what it looks like on this side, Michael Guerrero comes in. I wish I could vote. Yeah. Well, we're all voting for you. So Yeah, I don't know, Bueno. Let me pull this up. And this is something we can have a lot of fun with. This also incorporates later on down the road, whenever we want to do quizzes and things like that on here, and we could do it. I know YouTube has it on their side, but it's for some reason it's difficult to produce and publish. Uh, so yeah, Jeff, if you, I know you might be busy, but if you can jump in here and see what we're dealing with, I'm gonna log into my YouTube account right now on my phone and see what's going on there as well. Because I think this is something really really cool. Uh, yeah, so the horizontal is there. Um, there we go. It's working. And so I voted twice on two different categories, and the first one is the only one that counts. That's cool. So we know that that's happening. Hey, you guys, thanks for helping us out, man. And once again, to my mods, especially. I know I don't have Duncan as a mod, but he's my partner on the Show Me the Shield, so we're good. If we grow this podcast, I will definitely probably throw him in as a mod as well. So yeah, you're right. I picked 1 and 3, but it only registered 1. It didn't register 3. So Ardell picked 2, but you already voted. So from what I understand, and I didn't actually get a chance to go into StreamYard and get what the rules of it are and using it, but from what it looks like so far, your initial vote is your final vote. So that's something, I don't know if 805, if you're still listening or watching, just pay attention to that. And if you have any questions or anything, 805, get a hold of me and we'll go from there. Eric Raiders Hunter coming in. Nation anywhere from 7 to 10, 10 to 7 is what I'm expecting. That's a numerical value. I appreciate it. But get into that poll and check that poll out and see what's going on. All right. Jeff, you're on the studio. You're on. Yes. Yeah, you're on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, everything looks normal from this end.
Okay, so everything seems to be working as according to plan, but it does look like your first vote is your final vote. So it is registering. If you play 1, 2, 3, or 4 and hit send, it does register, and it's collecting data. So we're at 20, 40, 40. So, and I voted for 3. I set my second vote was for number 3, and it didn't register. So we're looking good there, boss. Looking good there. So if you want to give a shout out to any of my guys, mostly all of our regulars, but
hi.
Yeah. We got him on his avatar. We don't want to he hasn't done his makeup today, so
oh, my laptop's still closed.
That's fine. But I just wanted you to come in and see it from this side.
No, it looks good from what I'm showing.
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing.
I like it. I think it's something that we can carry on and hopefully some of our other guys can do it as well. I know we can move it around. But it's only in the corners. I think that affects the vertical though.
No, the vertical just moves it left and right. So even though you pick it to go to the upper right, it only moves left and right at the bottom.
Right on.
Right. Yeah, it's a new feature. It was active as of yesterday. I didn't use it last night on the show because I kind of forgot about it. To be honest with you. But I like the way it works. It's cool. So, and that's the one thing you and I had talked about when we were in the studio before you started today, was if it was going to gather data or if we were just going to have to figure out based on it. But it obviously is gathering the data, so it's actually it's a lot better than doing it in the channel.
Yeah, on the YouTube side, it's a pain in the butt.
Well, you know what? This also, like I said, anybody that does YouTube podcasting that's listening or watching, this also will help you with your algorithm now too, because it's forcing people to type in the chat, and the more chats you have, the better the hit you're going to get on your algorithm going forward. So it's going to help guys like yourself that are still smaller in numbers. It'll boost your numbers. Like it'll help you. It'll help Duncan. You know, that's the stuff that's going to feed your algorithm to a whole different, you know, side of, you know, people looking for Raider content.
Yep.
So it's a good feature. I like it now.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
it's split across the board, 33%.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
pretty
bueno,
cool.
I'm always trying to up my game, baby. That's why I've been doing like I've been doing, man.
And it's only because of you guys. You know, the Buenos, the Rorschachs, the Hits Radio, Donuts Duncan, 805, all the you guys that have come into the chat, Ardell. It's you guys that make us want to do this, really, in all honesty, because it's we build relationships that are like, it's kind of unique in a roundabout way, friendships, but it also goes to show that we at the core are still we got a commonality, and that's the silver and black, and we'll defend it to the end. But yeah, I like it, Jeff, and so far so good, man. So far so good. So, all right. Next segment, ladies and gentlemen, AFC West reality. Where are we at with that? AFC West reality.
All right, I'm out of here. Everybody have fun. See ya.
Thanks. Good night.
Finish prepping for tonight. Bye.
Thanks, brother. All right. Can we beat the Kansas City Chiefs right now as constructed? What do you think? Are we tougher than the Denver Broncos? Are the Los Angeles Chargers more talented top to bottom than we are? What do you think? So my thing is, we're coming up. We're coming up. We're better than what we were. Okay, on paper, we're better than what we were. But I also want to wait and see what happens, because sometimes we can play with fool's gold. As Raider fans, we can play with fool's gold way too much, and I myself am just as guilty as the rest of you guys with it. Is we get caught up in the fool's gold way too much. So let's get back in the chat, gentlemen. Yeah, we're still learning. We're still trying to build stuff and doing stuff. Now he's showing the ropes. Jeff's been a great mentor for me getting into this. When I decided to hatch into this and go for it, man, what a blessing to have a friend like that. He's a cool dude. Donuts Duncan answering the question, the AFC West reality. And that's where we're at, right? That's the topic that we're on. Is this something that are we better than the Chiefs? Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is hurt, right? So who knows what that is? And he had an ACL tear and an LCL, I think, as well. So he had specifically 2 injuries to the same knee. And so it doesn't necessarily mean 8 months for one, 8 months for the other. But sometimes ACL injuries, some guys with ACLs, they can come back in 3 to 5 months. Some are 6 months, just depending on the severity of the injury. But you throw the LCL in there as well, and it's like, okay, pump the brake for just a little bit, and you can this is going to take a little while. Now, Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys. He's a professional. He takes his profession very serious, and he's going to do everything that he can to get back out on the field, right? But is that just enough? That's a question. That's a good question, because we've seen a lot of guys that have come back from ACL injuries, and you're like, oh, wow, man, he's playing week 1, but he's not the same. All right? Because there's some mental aspects to it as well. there's definitely some mental aspects. Eric Raider Hunter's in here in the house. Salute to you, brother. Giving a shout out to Bueno as well. Jason, check your IG. I sent you something if you want to put it up on your show. Let me see here. Stand by for just a minute. The Raiders are hosting an NFL draft party with Fernando Mendoza on day 2. Okay. So if anybody wasn't aware of that, the Las Vegas Raiders have announced they will be having a draft party on day 2. The draft party will also feature projected number 1 Fernando Mendoza. Fans are invited from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific time to watch day 2 of the draft on April 24th. Tickets are $5 each. Will go to the Raiders Foundation. Not a bad idea. I mean, considering he's not going to be at the draft where we get to physically see him get his hat and hold up his jersey with the commissioner. But who knows? Sometimes when I watch the draft, I kind of like the guys that are at home sitting on the couch with 30 of their closest, they got their mom or grandmother, aunt, uncle, people that mean a lot to them are actually there in the moment sharing that. Whereas in the green room, you can't have as many people. You're still going to have a core group, right? But you're not going to have as many people. So that, to me, I like both. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not upset that he's not going to be there. Now, some of you guys that are going to the draft, I know Jeff isn't upset that he's not going to be there. In fact, he's probably happy he's not going to be there. There's some of the anti-Mendoza guys that are glad he's not going to be there. Then there's some that are going to say, well, he's just being a coward, or he's being, he's just playing games or whatever. His mental makeup really is he doesn't really like. Now, I don't know if this is true. I don't know if this is actually the truth, but he portrays himself as somebody that he likes to put other people first, not himself. And sometimes I saw that, like during touchdown celebrations and stuff like that, that it was more about his team celebrating than it was about him celebrating. Right. So you see some guys when they score a touchdown, they want to be the one on camera. Whereas like he would score a touchdown and he would rather have other people on camera. All right, so we're getting some anti-Mendoza chatter. You guys ready? Here we go. He is too scripted. He's fake. Come on, no one really acts like that. Really? Nobody acts like that. There's a lot of people that are like that would much rather have their team celebrate than themselves. It's about the team and not about themselves. There's a lot of people like that. Maybe he is one of them. I think he is. I think he's true. I really do. But there might be pushback. There might be argument to that, and that's fine. I don't really care. But I think he's true. And there's been a lot of people like that. Hell, Jim Plunkett was like that. He'd throw a touchdown pass. He'd just unsnap his chin strap and get off the field, let everybody else celebrate and have fun. So there are some people like that. Even today, there are. And a lot of it has to do with how you're raised, too. And sometimes, son, it's not about you. It's about everybody else that's around you. And so sometimes those are the people that need to be uplifted more than what you do. So him staying home, I know his mom's health may also be a factor. And I heard some people say, well, it wasn't a factor when she went to the Heisman ceremony or when she went to the national championship game. Yeah, but that was 4 months ago. What's her health like 4 months later? Now, I had an aunt that had MS, and She was in a wheelchair for 20 years or more. And, you know, like she would go to a wedding and after the wedding was over and being around the crowd and, you know, being driven there and driven home, she'd be in bed for 2 days just because she was just wiped out physically, hurt all over. And just, you know, the strength that it takes when you have that disease to carry on. So it could be one of those deals where why expose my mom to unnecessary travel? And mind you, they're just going to Pittsburgh. Nothing special, right? So why expose my mom to that kind of environment when we could just stay home and enjoy it as a family at that time? So, and I'm not against that. I'm not against that. If at the core of the point, if that's the point, then I'm all for it. I celebrate that. I think that's plenty okay with me. I know like Joe Thomas went fishing with his dad and got the phone call out on the boat, you know. So who knows? There might be a surprise ceremony that occurs when the pick is announced. And it might not be the commissioner making the announcement. Who's to say? I have this funny feeling that something is brewing that's going to be a little different than our traditional draft pick announcements. Might be something a little different. Stay tuned. I only wanted Mendoza because it pissed off Jeff. He's not even real Mexican. No, he's actually, I think his paternally he's Cuban. So I think on his mother's side, there's the Mexican side of it. And this, and you know, the scary part about it is my brother-in-law. His name's Fernando Mendoza. It's crazy. It's amazing that nobody is questioning Mendoza's character and motives, but yet an extreme small amount of people can have such a bad case of cognitive disobedience and project. Just simply amazing. You know, that's just it. And money check, and they're entitled to that. But they're also they're gonna hate to hate as well, because there's to them there's a fundamental reason, and I quite honestly think a lot of the reasoning is because of his character in and of itself that is being questioned, how he portrays himself, right? Is it true and genuine? Well, some of the interviews that I've seen with certain people, that if it wasn't true and genuine, would be absolutely different, because a lot of times guys like that can portray themselves one way in front of one camera and be a complete jerk in front of another camera. So I haven't really seen him deviate from that. He's been consistent every time. Now, there are some interviews that I've seen that emotionally he's very plateau, which is cool. I like that. I like a guy that can carry himself without being too high and too low, right? But then he's also one of those guys that is not afraid to answer the questions, right? You might not like his answers. Okay. You might not like his answers, but they're his answers. And sometimes, and be quite honest with you, there are times where people listen to me and I say something, and 5 minutes later they forgot what I said, and it's like, I just said that. And you know, and it's maybe how I portray myself, but I am who I am. You guys are who you are, and we're all the same one Raider Nation. So, but yeah, money check. Thanks for your nice take too, by the way. I appreciate it. And those are some of the things that, you know, kind of in a roundabout way drive me up the wall, because I would love to just sit down side by side with some of these people and say, let's watch this. And now, how do you formulate your opinion by what we just saw? That's the question that has to be asked. So that's why sometimes it's like when I hear those opinions, like, okay, how do you base that? What do you base that off of? Okay. And just, so on and so forth. Now, I have a confession. And this, I obviously people know I'm pro Mendoza, and I have to have a confession. And this isn't buying into the hype. I didn't buy into the hype. I actually was watching the progression. And there was a point in time where, as a fan of football, you go, wow, that was cool. I like that. I like this kid. Which to my own fault was the same reason why after watching the Sugar Bowl of LSU of Notre Dame, I thought, man, we got to get that kid. Look at that. He is slinging it all over the yard. He can cook it 100 miles down the field. His pro day, he's taking a knee and throwing it 70 yards. It's like, wow. I forgot he was sponsored by NyQuil. That wasn't a good thing, was it? Or didn't really. He just wanted enough money to get some diamond earrings and a car and have a bunch of lavish parties with $5,000 bottles of champagne, and live it up. It wasn't about being a football player. When I make decisions, Jason, I listen to a plethora of inputs and put it through a filter. There's nobody questioning Mendoza's character other than a very small, narrow-minded. I am not going to call him narrow-minded. And for the simple fact is, a lot of times people have their perception as well. I think narrow-minded is kind of a by articulating somebody or conveying that somebody is a narrow-minded person. That person actually might have something that you got to listen to as well, right? And you just got to kind of understand it. And it's like, but I also expect that they kind of, okay, you watch that and I'll watch it, and then we'll come to a conclusion together. It's like that with movies. I watch a movie with my wife, and she'll have a conclusion of how the movie was, and I'll have a different opinion, and it doesn't make one more right than the other. It's my perception, right? And my perception is his character is I think I'm right. Somebody else might think they're right. That he's fake, he's not true, he's a weenie. Whatever. That's fine. So, but once we get him into the building and we see him on a day-to-day basis, we see more press conferences that are ours. Or we start to see him interact more with our organization and be a part of our organization. That'll give us more of an undertaking. But Moneychuck was absolutely right as well. Is there are people that make millions of dollars that do this for a living to vet these kind of players. And if they think it's right, you kind of have to trust them. Because we're only getting the Cliff Notes version. They're the ones that are going to get the entire book. So, continuous improvement every year used to be a big talking point for QBs. Mendoza accuracy has to be his big indicator for future NFL success. Mendoza is accurate plus other points. He checks pretty darn near every box that you need to say he is going to be the quarterback. He pretty much does. And that's why, and even going into the national championship game, I was like, I don't even care what he does in the national championship game at this point, unless he just literally pisses down his leg, throws 5 interceptions and only 65 yards passing, or does like what J.J. McCarthy did when he was in the national. I think J.J. McCarthy only had 65 yards passing in the national championship game, right? And they still won. I mean, they still won. Don't get me wrong, but that was kind of an indication that you're not the guy running. Blake Corum is the guy that's going to help us win this championship, not you. So we're not calling plays for you to win the game. Whereas, and Indiana's national championship game, they relied on it was a well balanced and plan of attack. They went heavy RPO because they knew that that was going to be their best way of countering Miami's pass rush. Quick snap, quick read, get the ball out. Nothing wrong with that. NFL teams do that all the time. You know, it's like hurry up, get the ball out. 1, 2, 3, get out. It's got to be out. You can't wait. If you start going number 2, number 3, oh, now you're getting your hold by the defensive tackle. And that happened a couple times in that game. That they ran a longer developing passing tree or pass play, and it didn't work out too well. So as much as some people say, well, the Indiana had the best offensive line. Not pass pro, man. They struggled quite a bit in pass pro. Run blocking, they were really good, really disciplined. But pass blocking, they struggled. They struggled. Pitt State, they struggled. Ohio State, they struggled. Miami was, they struggled a little bit. I know Oregon in the second Oregon game, they were able to control the tempo, so the pass rush didn't necessarily. They were able to get a jump on them. So Oregon had to go into more of a run defense, more of a base defense, less nickel, less dime coverages. So they were playing more of their beefy guys to try and stop the run to help them get back into the game, but it didn't matter because Indiana at that point was already chugging. They were still clicking off big runs. But Fernando still played phenomenal in that game. I mean, going into the championship game, he had more touchdowns than incompletions. Who does that? But I can hear those guys out there. Well, he only threw it about 20 times. Okay. 18 out of 20 for 255 yards or 280 yards. I take that all day, twice on Sunday. If I can get a quarterback to get me 250 yards off of 20 pass attempts, win. That's freaking incredible. Because if, for those of you that are stat junkies, go back and look historically, that quarterbacks that have to throw the ball 40 to 50 times per game are less likely to win than those that can stay between that 25 and 30, 20 to 25 range and be effective. Now, if you're going to throw the ball 25 times and you're only getting 115 or 120 yards, yeah, that's going to be a problem. You need that 250. You need to get that 250 yard mark is kind of that sweet spot for success. And with the running back, it's that 80 yard mark on 20, that 4 yards a carry, but you get 80 yards. That's kind of that sweet spot where the team's having some success. And then the defense, on the defensive side of the ball, they're playing defense to a point where the third down conversion rate against your defense is in that low 20s. The other team isn't converting, 3rd and 25 and 3rd and 7 on you every drive. I mean, let's face it. We remember that Chargers game in overtime, right? When we went to the playoffs to get us into the playoffs. I mean, how many times can you have a team fourth and long on one drive? It mind boggles me, and that shouldn't happen. And we're tired of that. That's some of the things that we're tired of. Hits boy coming in with a walking highlight reel. I'm assuming he's talking about Fernando Mendoza. I know Fernando does have a huge highlight reel, but also too, if you watch some of those games, like for example, you don't see too much of it, but if you watch the UCLA game, now it's UCLA, I get it, and of course, I'll probably get, well, their defense won that game. Well, yeah, they got a pick 6 on the second play of the game. kind of set the tone. UCLA was 3-4. Indiana was number 2 in the nation at the time. Had moved up to number 2, and they were really cooking. And they were already starting to balance their stuff to take on Ohio State for the Big Ten championship, and so on and so forth. But if you really watch that game and watch how Fernando performed in that game, a lot of questions will be answered as to some of the negativity that has transpired, as to, well, he's not tough. Well, he got clobbered a few times and still was still slinging it. His production was really good. There were times, and I agree with 805 on this, 110%. There's not enough of him going through his progressions, but there is examples of him going through a full 45-degree read of the field of going through his progressions. The only thing that I don't like this about him is his feet don't mirror his eyes. His feet should mirror his eyes. And what do I mean about that? What do I mean? His toe alignment should be where his read is. Unless he's going to be one of those guys that I'm going to look here and throw there. He's not that kind of guy. Matt Stafford is. Stafford could do it. Stafford could look you right in the face and throw a dart and hit a guy in the chest through his peripheral vision. Patrick Mahomes can do it. Josh Allen, I've seen him do it a few times, but he doesn't do it quite a bit. He still will flip his head. His head will go 90 degrees to 360 degrees. Well, 300 would be spinning around, but 90 degrees to where it needs to go. One of the guys that I think that is really sound with that technique is Lenore Sellers. But he's coming out next year. Why do I say Lenore Sellers? Because my guy, Nate, just jumped in here. What's good, my friend? What do you think? Who do you think has the possibility of a better quarterback than Mendoza in next year's draft? Before I even read your text, I was already going there. Great minds think alike. I myself think Lenore Sellers is, if you look at his fundamentals, okay, his mental acumen of who he is on and off the field, his athletic ability, and how he leads his team, I give him the edge over Fernando Mendoza. I do. The only thing is he can sometimes be a little too dependent on his running ability, and it takes away from what he can actually get accomplished in the passing game, which I think he can accomplish way more in the passing game. And what do I mean by I say that? His fundamentals are, and like we were talking about just now, you watch him. He takes a snap, right? At pistol formation, he'll be in a 2x2 or 3x1. He'll have an over-under concept on the right side, okay? Whether it be the over is the inside slot or the outside, right? And his number one read is going to be to the flat. And then the second read is going to be the hook. And then his third read is going to be the post corner on the backside. Okay, so just picture this. Okay, so you got your slot. It's running a 10-yard out, 8-yard out to the sticks. Okay, your outside receiver is running a hook route on the backside, and he wants to catch his draft. So he wants to catch the backside of the cornerback that is following the inside slot. Okay, so as he's catching that, and he's catching the hook. So number one's going to be the flat, but as the curtain opens, now your hook route opens. Okay, well, that cornerback now is on top of him. So now my third read is going to be the post corner that's going to be going at or to where either the safety is going to be, I want you to break across his face, or I want you to beat him to the point. So I'm going to throw it with the intent you're going to beat him to the point of the ball. Now, there's a few games where they show the end zone view of this, and I love end zone view of watching it because this is where you get your coach's tape. Okay, you will actually see Lenore Sellers go one flat, two hook, 3. But it's not just his eyes. Watch his feet, his shoulders. It's 1, 2, 3. Boom. And when he's coming to 3, that shoulder's already cocked coming forward because he knows because if the outside corner is closing on the dig route, that post corner, he already knows this post corner is going to beat man coverage on the inside because that guy was playing outside shade anyways, right? So he's going to beat him across his face. Now he's got to get across the face of the safety coming across the field. He knows that's going to happen too because he already saw the safety standing back on his heels, right? Watching him. So then he hits the ball. Love Lenore Sellers. Bad part about it is bad coaching, bad team, and a beast of a conference. So you're never going to see the full potential of what that kid could do at South Carolina. Nate said it last night, and I 100% agree. We're going to sing the same song. I would have loved to see him hit the portal and go somewhere else. I really would have. And it's interesting if the thought wasn't LSU with Lane Kiffin. Kind of makes you think, doesn't it? What that kid could have done. So I asked LV last night to explain why he felt past draft QBs were better than Mendoza and refused to answer, but now he asked who's going to be better next year. So we're talking about next year, not past. Okay. I 100% agree. Name a quarterback next year that is better than Fernando Mendoza. And I don't see anybody except for, I think Lenore Sellers can, only based on what I've seen on tape. Trinidad Chambliss, great story. Loved watching him play last year towards the end. If he can take that and expand on it next year, then you got to throw Trinidad Chambliss in that conversation. I'm not sold on Arch Manning. You guys want to fall in love with he's a Manning, blah, blah, blah. Nah, don't get hooked on that. Okay? Stop. Check yourself real quick on that. Sorsby, I don't know. Now, Levitt, he smart move, left Arizona State, went to LSU, get some better coaching, might elevate him a little bit. So we'll see. Proof is in the pudding when they get to LSU. Okay, so we'll see how that works out. But right now, as we speak, nobody in next year's draft is better than Fernando Mendoza. Full stop. And I'm going to say, you can clip it, you can record it, you can argue with me all you want, but proof is in the pudding. And that's my take on it, because he did what he had to do and did it and won, and so on and so forth. So we're going to probably talk about this till we're blue in the face, guys. But in all honesty, it is what it is, and we have to go from there. I'm trying to move off the subject before we start getting all pissed off at each other. But it does kind of piss you off. Here's another thing that pisses me off. I mentioned last night. Do you think that Fernando Mendoza could be a leader of men? I heard comments say, I don't think he could be a leader of men. 2 sentences later, well, the only reason why Indiana was so good is because they had a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds on that team. Well, who the frick was the leader of that team then at 22 years of age? Hello? Are you not paying attention? When you say one thing, correlate it with the next. Okay? That's what you got to do. You can't do that. You can't say, I don't think he could be a leader of men, and then turn around and out of your breath. The next sentence is, the only reason why Indiana was so good is because they had a bunch of grown men on their team. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? Do you really think does that make that doesn't make sense? I mean, I've heard some stupid ass excuses in my career. Trust me. I I could write a book on some of the stupidest excuses I've ever heard, but that one, come on. Can he be a leader of men? The only reason why Indiana was so good is because they had a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds on their team. Doesn't matter which side of the plus sign you put the 2 plus, it's still going to equal 4. Don't say this isn't Common Core, right? This is so either you either say I don't think he can be a leader of men, and this is why. I don't think he has the construct to do it. All right. Now, when it comes to Indiana and they had a bunch of 25 and 26-year-olds, just say, yeah, but I don't think he was the leader of that team. But then you're going to follow up with that. I don't think people are telling the truth that he was a leader of that team. Because if you ask his head coach, quote unquote, Fernando Mendoza was the straw that stirred that drink. And a comparison goes, well, Curtis Rourke was on the team last year and he did better than. No, Curtis Rourke pissed down his leg when he played Ohio State. Go watch the game. He literally pissed down his leg. And it wasn't a physical performance issue. It was a mental performance issue. Now, fast forward to the next year, Ohio State, who didn't piss down their leg. Stayed true. It wasn't pretty, but you know what? What's our motto? What do we want to get? We carry pride and poise. We want pride and poise to get to commitment to excellence. But we're looking for just win, baby. And if you have all 3 things going for you, it's going to be a just win, baby situation. Right? So that's one of the things that I liked about what I saw out of Fernando Mendoza was when the game wasn't going right, Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State. Those are just 3 games that I can tell you right off the top of my head. He was doo-doo in the first parts of those games. Started the second half against Miami, doo-doo. 0 for 3 in the third quarter. He was doo-doo. He didn't quit. He stayed with it. Right? He kept playing. He kept doing what he had to do to help his team win. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't get any better than that. When you're looking for a quality and a quarterback, it doesn't get any better than that. And that's why I feel he deserves to be the number 1 pick of our Las Vegas Raiders. All the other stuff, well, he doesn't take a snap. He only took a snap 5 times. 5%, 5 times. He only took a snap under center 5 times. Okay. Well, I could teach an 8-year-old how to take a snap from center. So if he gets to Las Vegas and they feel they need to get him under center, guess what they could do? They could teach him how to take a snap from under center. They could teach him how to reverse pivot. Okay. They could teach him how to close his eyes, see the defense, close his eyes. Now open your eyes. Now what do you see? I guarantee you that kid could figure that out. Guaranteed, 110%. He can figure that out. But the only way that it's going to happen is with repetition. So, I'm not the coach, but if I was, my suggestion to the Las Vegas Raiders is every practice, there's a 10-minute period of just under center snaps. You know who else needs to learn how to take a snap from under center? AOC. You know who needs to learn how to take a handoff from a quarterback that's under center? Ashton Genty. You know who needs to learn, get better, or be proficient at snapping the ball to the quarterback under center? Tyler Lindenbaum. So there's a whole battery of situations that has to go into under center. Now, the cool thing about this is Clint Kubiak, and he's already stated, read the tea leaves in his interviews, that he is more inclined to curtail his offense to the player than he is to force the player to curtail to his offense. We just had Josh McDaniels, right? His way or the highway. I kind of lean towards it. Clint Kubiak has alternatives already built into his scheme as to how suffice that issue. Okay. So how do we fix that? Okay. 10 minutes every practice is going to be 100% under snap for 10 minutes. Boom. Okay. Next session on 7-on-9, we're going to go 50-50 under snap. Then when we're 11-on-11, we're going to go 30-70, 30% under center, 70% in shotgun pistol formation. Then as it goes on, it's going to be 50-50 on 11-on-11, 30-70 and 7-on-9, and then maybe 20% at during the individual drill, individual quarterback drills, individual player drills, position drills, position drills. So that's where, so you're going to build up and then you just reverse it the other way. Once the proficiency starts to become evident, then you reverse it the other way. And that's where you start to learn that they're retaining that as you coach it. So and then once you get to that point where the retention is there and the proficiency is there, then it doesn't matter. Then it's like, we're not going to program you as to what we're doing this next practice. We're not going to program you. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the team that we're going to play and we're going to go from there. It might be, we're going to play like Houston, for example, right? I might want to be in pistol formation 80% of the time against Houston. Right? So it's a short shotgun pistol formation. So it gives him an extra step on the edge rushers, right? But at the same time, it doesn't allow the edge rushers to dictate where you're going with the ball from under center. And you can still run a halfway decent play action out of pistol formation, right? You can still reverse pivot out of pistol formation. Got to do it quick. You better do it quick, and your tackles better be disciplined on getting leverage on the outside. Otherwise, it's going to be a dirty, dirty play. But the whole battery has to be there. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of his lost children. Nice. I like it. Yeah, for those of you guys that are just joining us, Furpo, thanks for jumping in. Next effect, all you guys that are in here, hey, there's a poll. Where do you see this team this year? Type 1 if it's a huge upswing. 2, better, but not quite there yet. 3, the same. 4 is I will just have to wait and see until the season starts. So check that poll out, man, and run with it. Something new that we're running with. Also, too, hit those likes and subscribes, notifications. If you got friends out there that haven't seen the show or haven't seen our show on Raider Nation Voices on Saturday night, get those messages out there. We're climbing. We're coming to you. Our goal is to overtake Mitchell Rentz because, let's face it, need real Raider fans, people that have been a Raider fan since they were born to run this stuff, right? What say ye, 805? You know, we are who we are, and we will who we want to be. And it doesn't matter who we take, Raider Nation. If we don't take Mendoza and we trade back and get extra picks, you know what? God damn it. I'm going to put all 10 toes on the ground, both hands up in the air, and say, let's effing go. Because I know that route is not bad. It's not the freaking end of the world. And it's not the end of the world if we take Fernando Mendoza. Because I can tell you this, if we do take Fernando Mendoza and we have done something that we haven't done since the days of Kenny Stabler. And as drafted quarterback that becomes our franchise quarterback that leads us to the promised land. Whether you have hope, like I do, or don't have hope, like other people, it's still what we want. Full stop. It's what we want. If SpongeBob can come in here and throw touchdowns all over the yard, so be it. And what type of quarterback do I want? Hell, this guy was drafted number 1 overall. Eli Manning. Anybody in here huge fan of Eli Manning? Did they really think he was all that? I would take Eli Manning in this draft. And that's kind of where we're at. I don't feel like we're pigeonholed. The only thing that makes those of you out there feel like we're pigeonholed is because there ain't 4 other quarterbacks that are first round worthy. Right? So don't feel that way. Just feel like, hey, now's the time. Strike. If it doesn't work out, is it going to be any worse than what we've freaking done for the last 25 years? At least we tried. At least there was something on the board at that position where we needed it with the ability to take us to that we feel that could. I'm not saying will, but could take us to the promised land. Strike where the iron's hot. Let it happen. Yeah, I wish there was other options out there as well for quarterback because we earned the number 1 position. Why? Because we don't have a quarterback. That's why. You guys think we win more games last year if we didn't have Geno Smith? Let's say we had Kirk Cousins last year. Do you think we win 3 more games? 2 more games? Maybe 5 games instead of 3? We earned the position that we got. And we had to work our ass off to get to that. And when I say work our ass off, we had to kind of suck on purpose towards the end. Unfortunately, we organically sucked the other 15 games. Then we turned around and beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the final game of the season that looked like a preseason game. I think half those players that played in that game are now playing for the Birmingham Stallions and the St. Louis Battlehawks. And people say, JD, why you know? I watch UF. I watch all kinds of. I watch Pee Wee football, high school football, college football. I watch it all. I'm not an expert in all 3, but by golly, I got enough information up here in this 53-year-old brain to know at least most of what I'm talking about. There's times where people get on here and go, JD, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, okay. If any of you guys are interested, there's a phone number right there for our phone-in show. On this phone number is also good for tonight's show, the No Huddle show, which is open to all fans. So you can call in on that show. But Saturday night is our show, Raider Nation Voices. Myself and 401 Raider Jeff host that show. And you can call that number and talk sweet nothings to Jeff. And actually, the cool thing about it is, a lot of people don't know this, but if you wanted to talk crap about me, you can call in and talk crap about me to Jeff live on YouTube, and you can't hear me. So it's almost like a one-way you can have a one-way conversation with me with no repercussions. Here's another issue, another dilemma that we're crossing. Cousins going to go and win us 10 games and make it impossible to remove him from the number 1 slot. Wasted pick. That is a question mark. That is a question mark. But do you really think with the roster that we have, he can win 10 games? I don't think so. He can win us more games to knock us out of the running for the top pick next year or top 5 pick. Most definitely. That's what, 6 games? If we win 6 games, we're picking at number 9 this year, 8 or 9. And actually, I think we'd be picking at 10 because we beat Kansas City the last game of the season. Well, no, we wouldn't have because we would have had a 1-5 record. And I think they were almost 50-50 in the division. Oh my God, Jason, you lost me on that take. What are you talking about? I lose you on every take. It ain't hard. If Mendoza turns out to have the success of Eli Manning and Genti as Frank Gore, each would be more than worth their drafted slots. Exactly. And it's just, we don't know. That's the ultimate unknown of this whole mathematical equation. You just don't know. You try and do your best, but you just don't know. Kubiak's 5-year contract says we aren't desperate for a QB this season and the fan bases, but Kubiak has the luxury to get his guy this year or wait. Well, I ask you this. If we kick the can down the road to next year, does that lock us into the full plethora of Cousins' extremely enormous contract? Because that's after year 1. Because the first year we get out of it pretty much unscathed. We just basically going to pay $11 million for a guy to come in and either be the backup or help us establish something, right? But if for some reason Cousins comes out and balls and let's say takes us to the playoffs, do we really want to go, okay, we're going to bring back a 39-year-old quarterback and hope he is our future? He's not. Because what's that? All we're doing is wash, rinse, and repeat of what we've done for the last 50 years. Try and bring somebody's backup in to be that shiny object to lead us to the promised land because it worked twice before. I don't think that's not a winning recipe. The winning recipe is getting the you draft the quarterback that you think that can lead your team to the promised land and make you better. I still at this point, I don't think it matters what Cousins does this year. He's gone next year. There's no way we could take that contract on going in the future. You know how much that's going to hurt us trying to fill other positions on the team? You know, that's crazy. So we're in a position now where, especially with our salary cap and the way we have some of these contracts out there, is the next 3 years we have to take advantage of that rookie contract. So I don't see that being an issue at all. Now, I may be wrong. Everybody else might be wrong. And it could be one of those deals where Kubiak says, you know what, I'll just run with Cousins this year. Let's skip on Mendoza. I'll run with Cousins this year. We'll get our quarterback next year. We're not guaranteed. We're guaranteed right now. We control who we pick right now. Are you really going to take that chance next year? Because you know AOC cost us the chance to get Jaden Daniels. We could have got Jaden Daniels or Drake May. But AOC messed around and won us 5 games at the end of the year. Let that sit in for just a second. We just did that. Do you want to do that again? We just went 3-14. We earned what we got. Okay. Now, if Mendoza is not the guy, I don't pour all pour Kool-Aid over me, flip shit at me. I don't care. But I'm going to stand there and look at you and go, at least we tried. Because we haven't tried. There hasn't even been an effort to try and fill that quarterback room through the draft. This franchise. Look at some of the other teams. I mean, at least the Colts. The Colts draft a quarterback seems like every year. You know, they're trying, you know, to get that guy. You know, and when I say try to get that guy, you got to do it in the first 2 rounds with quarterbacks. You gotta be able to say this is the guy in the first 2 rounds. So, but having said that, we're gonna move on. Did I clarify myself at all, or do I need to talk more about that? No player could have saved us last year with that staff. Absolutely 110%. You are right. I don't think we could have had Rich Gannon, Jerry Rice, Tim Brown, Charlie Gardner. But that coaching staff last year, that coaching staff was worse than Bill Callahan in 2004. 2000 or 2003, 2002. In 2002, Bill Callahan didn't have to coach that team. They coached themselves. But in 2003, it was a little different. Especially when the injuries piled up, the penalties piled up. Then you go before the media and say, we've got to be the dumbest team in America. You know, and your players watch your press conferences. And how you treat them on the field and how you talk behind their back says a lot about who you are. And, of course, Bill Callahan ran over to Nebraska, sucked at Nebraska as a head coach. Damn good offensive line coach. I'll give him credit for that. JD, you don't know what you're talking about. The fuck I don't. Money Chuck, you're great. You don't avoid questions. Thanks, Money Chuck. I don't. I'm not afraid to debate anybody about this stuff. And I will be the first to tell you if I'm wrong. Okay. I'm not one of those and ignore it. I'll tell you, you know what? You're right. I was 100% wrong on that. You're absolutely right. The feedback from callers is like they're not hearing you. Ha 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 ha. What are you talking about? Oh, Raider Nation voices. Yeah. You know why? Should I say it? No. JD, you down for a mock? Here's the deal. I'm running vertical and horizontal, and the vertical screws everything up when you bring those mock drafts up. And I know they're a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. But I really haven't. I shouldn't say I haven't done a lot of mock drafts. I have. I've probably done 30 of them. But the ones that I've done is I just hit the computer and let the computer go. And all I'm doing is I'm hitting pause and seeing where people are falling. Because there's some guys that I have as a high second round that are going third and fourth round. And I'm like, this is nuts how this is. And a lot of times, and it has to do, we talked about algorithms. And if anybody don't know what algorithms is, it's a collection of data that is procured and then presented to make it basically like our poll that we're running here, you know. And if you haven't done so already, get on there. Where do you see this team? Where do you see this team this year? Type 1 in the chat, huge upswing. Type 2 in the chat, better, but not quite there yet. Type 3 if you think we're the same as we were last year. Type 4, I will just have to wait and see until the season starts. And if you want my opinion where I'm at 2, leaning to 4. Better, not quite there yet, but I have to wait and see. And the only reason why I say that is what we do in April and May are extremely important to the construct of our team and our franchise. It's not necessarily what we'll see on Sundays come September. I tried giving the coaching staff the benefit of the doubt, but once I heard players were practiced behind the coach's back, said everything I needed to hear. It absolutely. And when you're doing that at the professional level, that's bad. It's bad, and it's bad at the high school level when that crap happens. And I've seen it. I've seen high school teams where they weren't being coached right, and they had some PE teacher that used to be the head coach that's not coaching anymore, getting the guys together and going and practicing at the park away from the school. That's bad. And it's kind of, and those guys aren't getting paid millions of dollars. Stupid Aiden O'Connell. No, if you don't draft a QB this year, you cut Cousins and get a QB in the draft next season. I honestly think there's more to the Cousins contract than people are thinking. I'm going to be 110% honest with you, 805. I don't have the contract in front of me. I really don't. But I'm going based off of what the experts are saying, how the contract is constructed. And it's constructed that on the third day next year, we can cut him. And the only thing that we'll owe him is the $10 million to where we only pay out of pocket 11.7, I think, or 11.3. But Atlanta has to pay him what they owe him this year, which is the guarantee at 8-point-something million dollars. So that's why we don't have to pay. We can get it. We're just paying him the league minimum is all we have to pay him this year. But the contract allows that. So basically, he's going to get that money, but he's going to get it next year when the season's over, right? Then I believe on the 5th day, if he's still on the roster, it triggers that contract to become $80 million guaranteed over the next 2 years. And then the next 2 years after that are unguarantees, or not guarantees. So it's basically, it's almost like two contracts. So you have one this year, but the second contract doesn't kick in until he completes the first contract, and we agree that, okay, what you did for us last year, we're going to hit you. We're going to go ahead and keep you. But I ask you this, would you, 805, this specifically for you, would you take a chance on bringing back a 39-year-old quarterback? Because if we draft a quarterback next year, we're doing it this year to have the veteran quarterback, so we have insurance policy for what our top draft pick, our quarterback we're taking at the top this year. That's the insurance policy for him. Plus, we only have AOC on the roster right now anyways. So we have to draft a quarterback, and we got to get another quarterback because you need 3 quarterbacks, right? And so do you kick the can down the road? I think it's such a huge gamble. You don't do that. You do what you said. You do what your intent of the contract is. Take full advantage of Kirk Cousins. And he knows, he's already said it. That's why he came in here. He's already said it. He goes, I've already told Clint the best guy that performs is the one that needs to play. Okay. Well, you won't see Geno Smith say that, right? You won't see Russell Wilson say that. You won't see some of the other guys that were once quote unquote franchise quarterbacks, but now are journeymen. They have fallen to that journeyman level of quarterback. You won't see them say that in a press conference. Kirk Cousins did. And I think that's kind of the knock wink at him coming in here, right? So they're building that foundation. They're building the bricks. They're laying the bricks of the foundation. And what better than to bring somebody in that has already done it for a year, bring him in, let him, because he can hit the ground running, right? We're not going to be hindered by him. Hit the ground running with him, and then let the young guys develop behind him. And I said it earlier, and I'll say it again. It's not just Fernando that's going to need the nurturing or the time element. to progress with this offense. You got even Brock Bowers is going to have to learn these West Coast concepts. Although he does run a lot of those route trees already, it's going to be a totally different ball game for him too, right? I mean, we can only switch coordinators and coaches so many times before these guys their heads are spinning so fast. We got to stop their heads from spinning. It's what we need to do. AOC's 6 coordinators in 3 years. I mean, Brock Bowers 3 coordinators in 2 years. So we got to stop their heads from spinning. Now's the time to do it. Let's do it. Let's all get on the same page, Raider Nation, and support these guys and let them do their thing. Why is AC getting strays for winning games? Isn't that the name of the game? Is it to win? What the fuck is wrong with the nation? We rather lose to make sure we get good draft picks? No. That's not. Well, I guess you kind of missed the point there. The point being is we couldn't get a quarterback. We were in position to get a quarterback. Yes, we won games. By winning those games, not by AOC coming in and winning those games, gave Antonio Pierce a second shot at being a head coach. That helped him because he was able to show progression. Right? The team was performing at a higher level than what it was before they fired the coach. And they were winning. I was thoroughly excited. I always want them to win, by all means. But if you're going to lose, right? Let me say it this way: if you're going to suck, but don't just suck bad enough to where you don't get to at least try and better yourself. Does that make sense? Or should I break out my crayons and write it down for you? There comes a point in time that if you're going to suck. And last year, by week 7, week 8, it was like, screw it. It just ain't happening. So you might as well go 10 toes in sucking, but don't just suck enough to where you don't get to fix yourself. I'm not big on that. I don't want to suck to get a high draft pick. I don't. I absolutely not. That is not what I'm saying. I don't want to suck. But if you're going to suck, you might as well be good at it, right? If you're going to half-ass win or half-ass, I'm sure your dad even told you this. Don't half-ass anything. If you're going to suck. You're going to be good? Be good. I want to be picking 25 to 32 for the rest of my life. Just like it was in the 70s and 80s. We never had, man, if we had the 15th pick in the draft, it's because we've traded up. Right? That's the goal, man. That is the goal. But sometimes when you get to that point, you just got to go all in, say, screw it. We're repainting the walls. We're redecorating, starting all over. And if that means doing it in week 10 of the previous season, so be it. That ain't happening again. I don't want that to happen ever again. Ever. Do I make myself clear, Raider Nation? Are you on board with me? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're with me on that. I don't ever want that to happen again. He's a fucking moron, by the way. No use for the guy. It's just a clickbait dickhead. Well, just be convinced. That's just it. Is anything I'm saying me with the intent to clickbait? Or does it sound like I'm pouring it right out of my chest, not ripping it off my sleeve? That might be a poll question next time. Do you really think that? who's a clickbait. There's a lot of guys that are clickbaiters. I can tell you those who aren't. 401 Raider Jeff is not a clickbaiter. Okay. There are people, even in this chat or not in the chat, but are watching that might think he's not. He's a hardcore, passionate fan. Okay. He's not right all the time. He'll admit it. Well, he won't admit it. I tell him he has to. He does listen to me sometimes. Another guy that is not a clickbaiter, absolutely 100% is not. He is not Dan Orlovsky, and I'm going to say that from the top of the mountain. And that is a 805 Raider is not a, I repeat, is not a clickbaiter. He's a passionate Raider fan who studies game film. He is 95% right on what he has told us that he saw on game film. And he'll admit he's not perfect at it. Right? But you know what he does? Is he does things for you guys. So when he does give you the information, it's his perspective for you guys. That's why you'll always hear him say, that's just my opinion. Those of you in the chat, tell me what you think. Exact words. Because he does this. We love our team. We love being around Raider fans. Right? It's just who we are. And that's why he does what he does. Jeff does what he does. And now I'm hooked on it. My wife thought I was crazy enough doing what I did as a Raider fan. And now I'm doing this. And it's like, you're doing another podcast. You do another. So now I'm doing 3 a week. And she's, and I go, it's just like I told her, I said, you know what? I like hanging out with my Raider buddies. And if that's in the chat or on YouTube, so be it. Me, I'm a clickbaiter. Yeah. And then we're going to trade for Deshaun Watson. Yeah. Deshaun Watson. And then when Vrabel gets fired, we're going to hire him. Also, I'm being an idiot for a bit. Next effect, 110%. We know who we believe you and we love you, man. And what you do is perfect. I don't want you to change. Does that make any sense? Stay who you are. Money Chuck, don't change. Stay who you are. Bueno, check the ice dispenser. It's running low on ice. Could you please? JP, my guy. 805 is sounding like the bad kind of conspiracy theorist. Mendoza is our pick. Just accept it and support him. Donuts, I'm gonna say this, and this is coming from our company that you're part of as well. Is I am not going to cram down their throat that we're taking Mendoza. It's not fair. It's not what they want. It's not who they believe, and they have their beliefs. Now, there are some on the Raider Nation Talk Live show that have very valid points, and I agree with some of them, and I do. But I also don't agree with some of them. Okay? And that's me. And I hope you can respect me for that. And I'm not talking to you specifically. I'm talking in general to everybody through this whole correspondence and disagreement. Just, I'm going to respect you, respect me, right? Because ultimately, if a Chiefs fan comes over to our tailgate and gets in your face, I guarantee he's going to get some asphalt therapy before you can blink an eye. Just saying. That's the way it works. I got your back. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I got your back. Yeah, because you can't have a debate without a discussion. If it's just going to be an argument, that's not a debate. You got to have a discussion. Most people said the same thing on a lot of my takes in the past, and I ended up on the right side. I'll admit this one is a stretch, and I think Mendoza is most likely the pick. Jeez, 805 is being more optimistic than me actually with that. I don't know why, but that's a great take, man. That's and this is why we do this. This right here is why we do this. Raiders Wire was like the Raiders should pick up Diego Pavia in the 7th or UDFA to compete with Mendoza. Look, Diego Pavia's got some moxie to him. He's got that grit. He does. But good Lord, how in the hell can you throw a pass to an NFL wide receiver behind an NFL offensive line at 5'9"? I don't see how it's even possible. That's like me, 6'4", 320 pounds. I love NASCAR. You can say whatever you want about it. I grew up around it. It's just something that I did. I love it. I'm not a big, huge NASCAR fan on the upside anymore because they've changed things and it's not as fun as it used to be. But growing up as a teenager, going to the local short tracks and stuff, I really loved it. But at 6'4", 325 pounds, you will never see me climb in through a window of a race car. Something I'd love to do, but it just ain't happening. So on the flip side, 5'9", behind an offensive line in the NFL, just ain't happening. I'm sorry. Your passing angles and everything, there's no way. About the only pass you're going to be able to throw are out in the flat. Now he played at a high level college, SEC, blah blah blah. I get it, but they also can contort their offense to suit that, to get around that. Now some people are going to say, "Well, Russell Wilson did it." Yeah, Russell Wilson also dropped back 20 yards to throw a freaking pass too, because he had to get that light of sight deeper. And I always use the neighborhood fence effect as an example. Okay. If you're 6 foot tall and you put your nose up against a 6-foot fence, you're not going to be able to see over the top of it. But if you back up, now you can see over the top of it. Now you back up, you can see more over the top of it. Right? Now you take a 5'9" quarterback, put him behind a 6'7" guy that's blocking for you. He's going to have to drop back 20 yards to be able to see over the top of him. 20 yards. I took physics in college. I took geometry. I did a lot of things. But Pavia is a dog and a competitor, but he is not Mendoza, not by a long shot. Okay, next debate. Here's another thing. The question has come in recently is, what is a dog? Well, my high school mascot was the Bulldogs, right? But we didn't go by Bulldogs. We had DAWGS on the side of our helmet, dogs. If we didn't perform to that level of a dog, we didn't get our decals that week. You know how embarrassing it was to be the only guy out on the field that didn't get your decals for your helmet that week? Dude. You talk about embarrassing. That you had to earn your decals for Friday. We're all bound to be wrong sometimes. Yep. Mendoza deniers remind me of those who live in Quantum land and dress like shaman. It's always a conspiracy, lack of sense, and false accusations. Exactly, 805. And one thing we haven't done, 805, is we haven't talked in person. So sometimes it's better to kind of, communicate. This is like, this it's been a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. The banter, it's cool. But, and like I said, I don't take any of it personal whatsoever. I hope you don't either, brother, because I think the world of you by far. And you're absolutely right. So one day we'll get together, we'll chop it up, and We just won't. We won't tell Severe that we talk. He might get mad. I like that guy too, man. Severe's a good dude. I think we got a JD5 if we could would have kept Champ Kelly as GM. He would have made that trade to get the number 2 pick, but we would have missed out on Bowers and Genty possibly. Actually, Bowers and Genty would have been the least of our worries. Bowers, we would have missed out on Bowers, Gentry, JPJ. Who else would have missed on? Oh, Jack Besh. Well, we got Jack Besh. Or who else would have got? Oh, JB or Glaze. We wouldn't have got him because it would have cost us a first, second, and third that year, and at least a first and second last year to move up. At least, at minimum, probably would have been more. No, there's no telling. Nobody's going to come out and tell us what the asking price or the going bid was for that pick, for the number 2 pick. I can't tell you this. Antonio Pierce wanted him, and you can kind of see it on his face when we couldn't get him. That there was a big emotional change in that man's body when we walked out of the draft. He was super excited going into the draft, and after the first round, you could see the sight of dejection in that man's face and his posture. It was kind of sad in a roundabout way. Yeah, and he was a coach, right? He played at a fairly high level. Okay, he played more than I did, coached more than I did, watched more film than I have, by all means, and he's great at what he does. His film study is phenomenal. It's just some of the points that he points out and there's a few things that he pointed out that I didn't quite notice, but there's some things that I noticed too that I don't think he really notices either. That I'm not a big fan of with Fernando. I'm not. But those are coachable moments. Those are things that could be and they're actually really common traits that happen to a lot of quarterbacks coming out of college nowadays. It's not just a Fernando Mendoza thing. It's everyone, including Jaden Daniels. The one thing Jaden Daniels had going for him was the super athleticism. He was able to compensate some of his faults with his ability to escape and still be able to deliver strikes when escaping. I'm not saying we're not drafting Mendoza. I just think the window of a trade back is a little bit larger than people think with how the contract is laid out, the relationship with Cousins and Kubiak. Exactly. I think the Cousins and Kubiak thing is 110% true. Okay. I think that's the number one reason why Cousins came to us. It wasn't the money, it was that relationship. And he's at that point in his career where the love of football has to supersede the money in and of itself. And a lot of times when you see situations like this with 38-year-old quarterbacks is they sign a contract like that with another team. They go, and about halfway through training camp, they realize that the love of their ability to play the game is a lot less than what the love of their game is. They still love the game a lot, but don't have the ability to equal out what their passion is. And they pull the plug like during training camp, or just in general, or they ride it out through this year and then just go, you know what, that was it. I gave it everything I had, and that's it. And because we're not, as much as we're talking Kirk, this is not the 2013, 2014 Kirk Cousins. It's not. This is 2026, and he is not the same. Especially, I mean, he had some good flight last year with Atlanta, okay, but it wasn't anything that you would go, wow, stop the presses, we got to get that guy. it wasn't like that. But on the flip side, I think a lot of it when he was cut by Atlanta, he knew, or Clint Kubiak knew, and him probably did have a conversation. And it was probably before Clint Kubiak even signed with the Raiders or agreed to come to the Raiders. That discussion probably happened as soon as Kirk Cousins was deleted from the roster from Atlanta. Who knows, right? Those are all hidden gems that we're not privy to that information. But hopefully there's enough juice in that lemon that we get a little bit of squeeze at it. But I also too hope that Fernando Mendoza comes in and just freaking shreds it in training camp. And then it's like, you know what? We're rolling with him. Is what it is. And it doesn't necessarily, and obviously success in the preseason doesn't correlate to success in the regular season. It doesn't. Derek Carr, for our experiences, Derek Carr was a perfect example of that. He tore it up in preseason his rookie year. It got to the point where, Dennis Allen had no choice, but he had to start over Matt Schaub because of what was happening. I mean, that Seattle game, the Seattle preseason game, he was going at Sherman and those guys. He dropped his onions right there in the bottom of his drawers and said, I'm here. I'm going to be the quarterback of this franchise. And went on to lose 10 games in a row. Now, a lot of that had to do with the coaching, lack of talent. We didn't have a whole lot of talent on that team. Besides him and Khalil Mack, I mean, that was it. C.O. Moore, I don't know. Wasn't a whole lot going there. Cousins' intentions plus his age, I just think there's more to it. Again, a lot to explain and hard to do in the comments. Yeah. I'm sure his intent is to come in and establish himself. But also too, if you read into his interview the other day, and this is just me, reading the fine print as to because he said that he would be okay with if the other guy was better than him. He's okay with that. He wants Kubiak to play the best guy, right? And I have never seen a veteran quarterback has the acumen and the bank accounts on top of that come in and say, I'm just going to come in and be the backup. He didn't say that. That's not what he's saying. He's not saying I'm coming in to be the backup. I'm coming in to quote unquote mentor. It's not what he's saying. He's just saying that if for some reason the other guy outperforms me, I'm okay with being the backup. But hey, Dark 1R7, thanks for coming in. We're getting ready to wrap this up 2.5 hours in on Raiders Pride and Poise. I appreciate all you guys coming in. This has been a phenomenal event. I love doing it on Fridays when you guys are at your lunch break, or if you're off or today's your first day off, you got your chores done, you want to sit down and watch a little something, have a conversation. So be it. That's what I'm here for. Let's talk it up. Let's chop it up. In the long run, it's us. Okay. It's us, and let's not dissent. And, as much as some people could be mad at some people about their comments or their takes or their questions or their beliefs, it doesn't matter. In the long run, we're family. I mean, come on. I have some family members that voted opposite my political beliefs. And sometimes I go, that's still my uncle. I love him. I do. It's what we're supposed to do, right? I will be your friend until you tell me otherwise. Okay. Now, there's only a handful of people in this world that I took the liberty of disliking myself. None of them are in this chat. None of them are in YouTube world. None of them are in my or any of these people at all of what I've been doing for the last 1.5 years. None of you guys. These are actually particular people that they took things a little bit over the top. And this is on a personal level. And that's why I disliked them. So if I saw them running down the street and they were on fire, I would not piss on them. Trust me. But in closing, because I've had a lot of fun, poll's still up. It will close when the show ends. It's different than the YouTube side. 805, I don't know if you noticed this. If you have any questions, get with me or Jeff, and we'll let you know how this actually worked out really good on StreamYard. I like it. I think it's one of those, and you can make multiple polls. So it's just like, it's basically like building a banner, but you're doing polls. You have my IG account. If you want ring-a-ling-ling on IG, man, and I'll explain it to you. It's really cool. And some of the things that you do, like your CBA stuff, you can use it for that. Now take it to a whole nother level. And that way I ain't the only one winning all the time. Somebody else can win. But I want you guys to I want you guys to know this, and there's only 15 of you guys that's still watching. We've had a great group tonight or today. It's just going to be 2:00 Pacific time. Some of you guys are probably getting ready on the East Coast, sit down and eat some dinner, or pop your first adult beverage for the afternoon. But one thing's for sure. Pride is earned. Poise is proven. And the Raiders, they are about to show us exactly who they are. And if we can get past pride and poise, we'll have commitment to excellence. Once again, thanks for coming in. Raiders First Downs, JD, Jason, whatever else Jeff calls me. You can use those adjectives as well. I don't care. But right here at the top, as you see it scrolling along, please hit those like buttons, subscribe, set notifications. If you have friends out there that aren't subscribed to my channel and you want to piss them off, have them come over to my channel. All is welcome here, no matter who. Unless you're out to steal money from me, and then we have a problem. But in the meantime, I will be back Tuesday night. Show me your show with Dunkin' Donuts, or Donuts Dunkin', excuse me. I always quack that. Then Friday, Pride and Poise. Saturday night, tomorrow night, live Raider Nation Voices. You get a call in 7:00 Pacific Standard Time. If you all don't think there's a show out there that ain't fun, get in there, dude. I'm telling you, Mitchell Rentz ain't got nothing on us. Nothing. We have taken that to a whole nother, and the season ain't even started. Wait till the season starts. Good Lord. We might get a Grammy. Who knows? Or at least a fresh cup of Donuts Dunkin' iced coffee. But in the meantime, thanks again. Salute, you guys.
Yeah, that's how we close it out. From the first take to the last word, yeah, we bring noise. Raiders run deep, that's that pride and that poise. Every take, every call, yeah, we gave it all. Raider Nation stand tall, never fade, never fall.